My name is Joshua Morris. I am a sophomore environmental science major, and today I will be teaching a class on the basics of fishing. After this lesson, you will know how to tie knots, how to cast, and what baits to use to catch yourself a fish. The only requirements for this class are that you can pass the swim test or wear a life jacket. Class is best taught next to a body of water like the one I'm near now. Any body of water will work, and it has to be in good weather because if there's any thunder, the class will have to end. For this lesson, you will need at least 15 fishing poles to provide the students, and the same amount of hooks, bobbers, and sinkers to provide the kids, just in case of snags or broken lines or any mishaps that might happen. To ensure safety, all of the counselors will be lifeguard certified. This is in case any students fall into the water and need assistance. The only certification required will be for shallow water rescues, since we are fishing off the bank. Other safety concerns are the possibilities of injury from hooks and possible eye injuries from the poles themselves. To prepare for this, we will take precautions to teach the students the proper way to handle fishing poles. We will also have a first aid kit readily available. To ensure that future educators can take this lesson plan and be able to use it for their own classes, we will include the necessary knowledge and skills necessary to teach this class. To teach this class, you will need to know how to properly fish for panfish, bass, and catfish, be knowledgeable in the main types of reels and rods, and how to care for and clean the equipment. I will begin this lesson by introducing myself and the topic, as I did in the beginning. And then we will emphasize water safety and fishing safety. Be sure to ask for any questions after this portion. We'll start by making all students take a shallow water swim test. The instructors will be lifeguard certified and have a lifeguard float with them. For fishing safety, we'll talk about spatial awareness when holding the fishing pole to make sure no one gets hit in the eye or face, and how to properly store the hook when not in use to prevent anybody from getting accidentally hooked. So now, at this part of the lesson plan, I will start by passing out the fishing poles and the tackle to each of the kids to start the lesson. There are many different types of rods and reels available, starting with the spinning rod that I have with me here today. There's also many other types like the spin caster, the bait caster, and fly rod. For example, the spinning reel, it is very easy to clean, very easy to use, and very easy to untangle because of the open system that we have right here. However, it is not designed for larger fish due to its construction and engineering. Next will be the spin casting reel. This one is very easy to use and great for smaller hands. However, it is not as easy to untangle or clean. Next is the bait casting reel. This reel is easy to accurately cast. However, it does take a lot of skill to use because if you don't use it properly or don't know how to use it, it can backlash or tangle very easily. And another good thing about this reel is that it can be easily scaled up for larger fishing, which is a very good use for this reel. The last reel I'm going to mention is the fly reel. The fly reel is very fun to use. However, it can be difficult to learn and master, and the equipment can be expensive that goes along with it. Also, all the techniques you use with the fly reel are different than all the other reels I previously mentioned. So this is a spin casting reel. This is one of the types of reels that we have mentioned here today. One of the pros, it is very easy to use. It is very good for small hands because it has this push button here. But the cons about this reel is that it's harder to clean and harder to untangle because of this cap right here. You have to unscrew it to be able to clean it and untangle it. Now we're going to talk about rods. So first we're going to talk about heavy rods. Heavy rods are ones that are heavier and made to reel in bigger fish, made to accompany larger reels, larger line, and just made for reeling in bigger fish, bigger game fish. But what I have in my hands right here is a medium rod. This rod is great for large bass, large catfish. It is good for those medium-sized fish that you just need to pull out of the water. Now what I have is a light rod. Light rods are great for fish like trout and panfish. If you don't want to have to carry a big heavy rod, these are great for pulling the smaller fish out of the water. and they're always accompanied with a smaller reel, smaller line for those smaller fish that you're going to be catching. All the rods I have above mentioned are come in combinations of light, medium, medium heavy, and heavy rods. These are great for just if you're not fishing for bigger fish, but you still have big fish like catfish or something like that. You're not doing saltwater fishing. So this is really what this is like a medium, it's a light medium rod, and it's perfect for different combinations. So now we're going to talk about types of hooks and the proper ways to use them. So first we're going to talk about the Aberdeen hook. This is a great hook for smaller fish like panfish and trout. It is a straight backed hook and it is obviously thinner and smaller and designed for these smaller fish. Next we have the offset hook, which is most commonly used for bass fishing because bass have those larger mouths that are able to swallow these larger hooks. And they're called offset because the tip and the eye loop are lined up, which allows a soft bait to hook straight on there and swim straight through the water. Next we're going to talk about the circle hook. Circle hooks are thicker and stronger and are best used, I use them most commonly for catfish because they are better to pierce through those catfish's harder, bonier mouths and can really reel in those heavier fish. Now we're going to talk about sinkers. There are many different types of sinkers, specialized for different types of conditions and different types of fish. And so I'm going to start with the one on the left here. This is a bullet sinker. This is designed to go on the line for bass fishing, and it helps just drop the lure down to the bottom and help it sink. This right here is an egg sinker. You can use this for catfishing. It really holds the bait on the bottom where the catfish are. And this right here, you won't really use this one at all for freshwater. It's usually for saltwater, but this is one sinker you may see while you're fishing. So now I'm going to talk about baits. These baits are used for bass fishing. So these are called soft baits, and there's many different types of colors, variations, shapes, sizes, and it all depends on what you want to try, what you want to go for. And the colors, you can use the colors varying on the light, the time of day, the color of the water, the temperature of the water, where you are in the US. But all of these baits right here that I have in my hand will be hooked using the offset hook. As you can see, it'll be hooked through the point and through the eye, and they will swim through the water in a straight line. All these hooks. Now what I have are hard baits. These are also used for bass fishing, and as I said before with the soft baits, there are many different types, and basically if one isn't working, you move on to the next. So right here we have one that will float on the water, and when the bass bites it, it'll squeeze down and hook them. And all of these have different ways of swimming based on the bills they have. They all have different ways of swimming. So if one isn't working, you can always move on to the next. So now we're going to talk about baits. Now, these baits here are used for smaller fish, so like panfish. And basically what these are meant to do is, these right here are meant to mimic eggs. And all three of these have a very strong smell to them that attracts the fish. And this one here even has a bright color with it and glitter inside of it, which will also help attract and lure in the fish. And this one here, you do have to pitch off some and mold it into the shape you want and put it on the hook. But these right here, this one, the eggs, and these little nibbles, you just put straight on the hook. Alright, so now we're going to talk about bobbers. So there are also, as with the lures and the baits, there are many different types of bobbers. And what it breaks down to is just personal preference and what you like to see bobbing in the water. And when you would use these is if you are fishing for panfish usually, or even catfish, and they indicate when a fish is biting your line, and they will bob up and down in the water and possibly even go all the way under the water, and that indicates that you have a strike. So right here we have a wood bobber. This one right here is a wood bobber. It attaches right here at the bottom. This is a styrofoam bobber. It has a weight right here at the bottom, which keeps the top of the bobber pointed straight up out of the water. And this is your typical plastic white and red bobber. So now we're going to talk about the types of casting. So for basic fishing, there's two main types. is going to be from the side and overhead. First, however, we need to learn the basics of casting itself. So when you first want to cast, you want to grab the line with your index finger and pinch it up against the pole. The next step is to flip the bail. Then you'll want to grab the rod and begin your cast. So once you've done the first steps of pinching the line against the pole and flipping the bail, you'll want to start your cast. Now I'm going to demonstrate timing for a side cast. So you want to pick the spot on the water where you want your bait to land. I'm going to pick that piece of grass in the water. So what you want to do is you want to let go of your line before the tip of your pole reaches that spot. Now we're going to demonstrate timing for an overhead cast. So now we're going to do the timing of when you release the line for the overhead cast. Now remember, the side cast is really the cast you're going to be using the most often, because if you're in a pond with lots of trees and overhead branches, your line might get tangled in those branches overhead. So the overhead casting is not really the preferred way to do it, but it is one of the basic ways. So now we're going to demonstrate the timing for an overhead cast. So when you cast, for the side cast, you picked your spot and released it before you got to that spot. For the overhead cast, you'll want to release it just ahead of you, but still above you. I'm going to demonstrate that. So now I'm going to demonstrate one of the ways to reel in the fish. So since I don't have a fish on my line right now, I'm going to be using one of these larger saltwater baits to simulate the weight of a fish. So when you are fishing and you have a fish, and you want to set the hook by jerking the pole, which deeply sets the hook into the fish's mouth. After that, you'll want to use the strength of your pole to yank the fish towards you, and then as you're going, and then drop the pole down and reel in as you're going down. And then repeat that process until the fish is on shore. Pull up and reel down. Pull up and reel down. For the last part of this class, I will demonstrate the correct way to clean and take care of your fishing pole once you're done fishing for the day. So you want to get preferably a hose, but if you can't find a hose, a bottle of water, a glass of water, and just rinse off the reel, the line, the pole, and all the line going all the way up. All the way up, all the line. Make sure none of that line has any more possibly corrosive substances in it. And then when you get to the fishing hook, make sure you pay special attention to the fishing hook. Make sure there's no leftover bait on there that can cause it to rust, or any other foreign substances like any aquatic grass. And after that, once you're done, you can shake it off and store it in a shaded and dry place, preferably somewhere like a garage or a shed, just anywhere out of the sun, somewhere not too hot, so that it won't get degraded by the UV lights and cause it to dry rot. Well, that is the end of our class for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, my name is Joshua Morris. I'm a sophomore environmental science major. I hope that you maybe learned a little something, or possibly even got inspired to start fishing yourself. Thank you.